Now let's shift our attention to Singapore's ruling People's Action Party, which has yet again managed to retain its power, but faced a huge setback as the opposition party made huge inroads by winning 10 seats in the general elections in Singapore. Prime Minister Loong's party, which has been in power since 1965, won 83 out of 93 parliamentary seats, but the vote share of the party dropped from earlier 70% to 61.2% this year. Meanwhile, the main opposition in Singapore, that is the Workers' Party, increased its seat share from 6 to 10 and was also responsible for denting the party's performance in several constituencies. Prime Minister Lee thanked the voters for the victory but also acknowledged that the party was expecting a higher number in its favour. And now for more insights into this development in Singapore, Professor Balveer Singh from the Department of Political Science at the National University of Singapore is joining us live. Professor Singh, thank you so much for joining us. So tell us, what does this victory and the low voter share tell us about the new political landscape in Singapore as well as the opposition's performance?
Yeah, thank you for having me. First thing, whenever there's a crisis in Singapore, historically the pattern has been the ruling party actually bumps up its support. This time around, the reverse happened. Okay, instead, the Workers' Party managed, as you said, rightly said, increase its number of seats from 6 to 10. And but more important, its popular vote also went up. But even more significant in Singapore is, unlike India, I think we have got a different system of parliamentary seats. We have single seats and we have got group seats, which we call group representation constituencies, which tend to be helmed by ministers. The Workers' Party captured one such what we call GRC in 2011 and knocked out 3 ministers. This time round, they maintained that one as they did in 2015, but succeeded in knocking out another minister and winning another GRC. And this minister is a former chief of armed forces as well as the chief of the labor union in Singapore. So it's a huge, huge, huge victory because there's a psychological dimension that the opposition will never be able to penetrate a GRC. I think after what happened last night, I think the story is just the reverse. No seat is no longer invulnerable in Singapore. But I think more important, in times of crisis like this, the ability of the political voters to send signals and messages to the ruling party, which has been in power since 1959, I think is very significant. I think what made the difference, I think the older voters tend to be very loyal to the ruling party because Singapore generally have done very well. But the young voters are sending signals of their unhappiness, of wanting different things, wanting greater empathy, sympathy, and a different kind of society. And I think those signals is what is all about what happened last night.
Right. Just a follow-up question to that, you mentioned that some of the younger generation may be moving away from the ruling party. Could this be attributed to the COVID-19 outbreak and maybe the government's response to the outbreak in the city-state? Or what else could these changes be attributed to? We know that the COVID-19 outbreak is a major reason for the turnout recently. So how has the authority responded to this outbreak?
I don't think it's because of COVID. I think because of COVID, we all expected them to actually congregate around the ruling party. In terms of responses, I think the government did extremely well. There's a debate whether you should have an election or not, no election during this period. I mean, that's a moot point. We already have an election. The manner the election was conducted, I think, was also generally well done, like in South Korea. But I think there are other issues, issues like greater freedom, issues like greater social welfare, issues like growing income inequality in the Republic. And I think at the back of the mind is jobs, 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 especially in the light of so many foreigners have entered into Singapore and therefore are seen as a kind of a threat to this country, mainly to the younger voters.
Right. All right. Professor Singh, thank you so much for all your inputs on the story and thank you for joining us this afternoon. And with that, it's a wrap on this newscast. Thanks for watching WION The World as one with me, Priyanka Sharma. Stay tuned. Global News continues on the other side of the short break.